on Ollie Watkins, he's linked with the move to Liverpool today. I do think, why is that funny? Ollie Watkins is brilliant.
We would not sign him in a million years, I'll tell you that right now.
Why?
Darwin Núñez is staying at my club for the third season, much against my wishes. So there's not room for another striker anyway. B, you're buying at the highest his market value will ever be in his football career. He's just come off the best season of his career. His team have entered the Champions League, so there's no need for them to sell for money. And you factor on top of that English tax as well. You're looking at a £100 million striker. And ultimately, I think this is his first real top season, and he's 28. What proof in the pudding is there that he can handle a move to a top club? I'm not saying he hasn't had a good season, I'm not saying he's not a good player, but we cannot afford gambles like this when we have bigger problem positions to fill. We can't. Maybe another club in world football might take the gamble on Ollie Watkins, but we can't. We can't replace Darwin Núñez with Ollie Watkins because it's a short-term fix. He's not 24. He's 28. You've got maybe 2 years.
Bro, Ian Wright was 28 when he came to Arsenal, I think. Man went on to be
Ollie Watkins is not Ian Wright, though.
I'm saying
this is not Ian Wright.
I'm just saying, don't disrespect players that are 28. You could come to a club and be 28 and end up being a club legend. It's not ridiculous.
Igal, I'm looking at my owners and my recruitment team. Mike Ledward was Liverpool's director of football for 7 years, and the only player he signed above the age of 26 was Thiago. And that was done over his head, basically, because Jurgen Klopp wants them. We don't buy players that old because there's no resale value. And we aren't in a position now where we are one player away from winning the league. We need a left back, we need a centre back, we need a DM, and we need a winger. They're bigger problem positions before a striker.
So you don't believe that? You don't. On the report, I get what you're saying there about your club not wanting him. But Kate, I mean, I'm not saying he would leave Aston Villa for Tottenham. I think right now that would be problematic. But when you look at Ollie Watkins, is it a player that teams like Spurs, teams like Arsenal should be looking at? Premier League proven, which matters to some people. He's not a kid. He's experienced at almost every level of the game. He's probably going to go to the Euros this summer as well. Is it someone that the bigger clubs should be looking at? Although Villa fans won't thank us for saying it, surely there is still going to be an attraction for Chelsea need a prolific striker. Would he be better value for money, Ollie Watkins, than Victor Osimhen?
I mean, I'd love him at Spurs, but I don't see it happening. Not only because I don't think he'd leave Aston Villa. He's just signed a 5-year deal 7 months ago. So he had a great season. I think he's a great little player. And like I say, it's the sort of signing I'd like to see at Spurs, but it's never going to happen. And I think Tom's right. I don't think he will go. I don't think he'll leave Villa for anybody. But I think to say, to play down how good he's been is a bit unfair. But there's no guarantee. I mean, he had a good season, but then Solanke had a great season last year. And I've got loads of Spurs fans saying they want him. But for me, he's a one-season wonder. I don't see him doing it consistently season after season.
On Ollie Watkins, if we just look at his goals, this is what's really interesting. So in his first, I thought we actually got 20 league goals. It says 19 now. Maybe one was taken off by the dubious goals panel. But in his first season in the Prem, 2020-21, he scored 14 goals in the Prem. His second season, he scored 11. His third season, he scored 15. Last season, he got 19. So he scored 4 more goals last year in the Prem than he did the previous year. But for some reason, the reason he's being raved about it was his first year in Europe. They didn't play European games. So he got 8 goals in 12 matches in Europe, which takes his tally to 27. The only real difference between last season and the previous campaigns is that he had an extra 12 games in European football with a very good manager to help him. You got to remember, this guy scored 26 Premier League goals with Gerrard as his manager. Do you know what I'm saying? They were a relegation team and he was banging in goals. So I sort of feel like, I don't know, I've always looked at when Spurs signed Richarlison a couple of seasons back and I said, you should have spent the money on Watkins. I just got laughed at. And
You wouldn't have by me, Terry. You would never have got laughed at by me.
No one rates it. No one rates it. But it was people not rating Watkins. And I kind of get it's hard to get away from Villa right now. They're in a good space. The manager's doing well. He signed a new deal and they're happy. And I get what you're saying, Tom, that your club won't do it. But I do feel like, I mean, even Arsenal, it's a lot of money. But if you are thinking of dropping anywhere near £100 million on Isak, I mean, I'd look at Watkins as well. If Watkins ain't possible, but you're thinking of spending that money, I look at Watkins and think, why not? Surely he would leave Aston Villa for Arsenal.
Do you not think it's football snobbery, though, Terry, because he plays for Villa? I think if he was a player that sort of, if he played like the way he does for Arsenal as he does for Villa, he would get so many more plaudits than he gets. But because he plays for Villa, I don't think he gets the credit he deserves. Like I say, I would love him. I would have loved him above Richarlison. For me, Richarlison was the biggest waste of money, along with Ndombele. But I don't understand why more people don't come in for him. I've liked him for years. I think he's a brilliant little player, but don't see anyone pricing him away.
It's just it limits teams. I think a lot of teams now are still worried about PSR, and I think that's why we didn't see much business in January. I still think that's going to loom over people's heads. And there is nothing to suggest that Villa will sell him. So therefore, it's in Villa's hands. And I've just looked it up there. He turns 29 in December. So you're paying for a short-term boom. You need him to come in straight away, hit the ground run, and bang it. And I just don't know if top clubs look at that and go, that's the gamble that we should be taking, because you are going to be paying close to, if not above, 100 million quid for him.
I think the main reason why people don't want to sign him is maybe because of, one, the ridiculous price tag Villa are going to want, because they are in no position where they need to sell a player. So they're going to try to ask for top dollar. And number two, his age and the statistics that he's gotten this season, although they're great, the metrics say that he's overperforming his expected numbers by a significant portion. Like, his teammates are all finishing at a clinical rate, which means his assists are higher than they were expected to be, and he's scoring goals at a higher rate also.
Do you know what I find interesting about it? He's a little bit older than Dwight York was. But the reason I don't necessarily buy this, I get that clubs have to have a bit of a rule around age limits. Man United looking to bring in a 25 limit rule. But most clubs only sign, the majority of players clubs sign, the top clubs sign, are 25 years old and under. I went and did the research last 4 years on City and Real Madrid. Most of their signings, 80% of them were under the age of 25. But Dwight York, turning 27, he cost £17 million. But if you look at the inflation in money in football, that's a kind of £75 million signing. Dwight York, he only had 4 years at Man United, maybe 5, I think it was 4. There are times where I don't think every signing you go for has to be made with sell-on value in mind and absolute long-termism. I think you can get to a point where you look at it and say, well, how do we get over the line? Or how do we get to that next level? I look at Liverpool. If Liverpool had Watkins in your squad last year, I think you win the Premier League with that 5-point gap you had and the abundance of chances your attackers missed to maintain that or grow it. Watkins finishes that game off against Man City as an example. You wouldn't have even needed the penalty. Watkins finishes that game off away at Old Trafford. You just take 4 more points from those games. Your season would have ended. I know you tailed off in the end. It's because you stopped playing. So I sort of think about the history of signings, and there are players like Dwight Yorks. I'm not too sure how much he cost Man United a few years earlier. I'm going to try and find this now. I think it was 97 he came in. But, I mean, it was a little bit less money. But 31 years old, Man United signed Teddy Sheringham from Tottenham. And look what he did over the next 4 years. This man came in, and fair enough, his money, looking at this inflation calculator, would have made him about £27 million. Okay, so it isn't as much as a Watkins. But that's because he's 3 years older. The point being, Teddy Sheringham came in because we lost Eric Cantona. And yes, we were the best team in England at that time. We were going toe-to-toe with Arsenal. But when I think of Liverpool, when I think of Arsenal, you neither of you two are in rebuilds. You're both title contenders, and it's about adding to your squad to get over that line. And I think it's hard to get Watkins away, but I think it's a type of player and it may not be a striker for Arsenal. I get the look at Xisco, but whether it's a striker or an inside forward or a midfielder, I think it's what your club needs to look at. City this summer. Well, how much they spend on Kovacic? 20, 30 million? Bringing him in? He's pretty old. Like every now and then you have to buy someone that's a bit older. I don't think you could always go, right, bring me the next 22-year-old. So I don't think Xisco's a bad idea. But if Arsenal sign 3 players this summer and they're all 20 years old, that's more of a concern. I think you need to bring some established people in that take you to the next level as well as it being potential. You've got to get that balance right. So I think clubs should be testing the water with them either which way.
But Terry, I think no matter what we do with the striker and the defender situation that we're going to be looking to bring in potentially, I do think the money is going to be spent in the midfield, and that's where we're going to get an experienced head. Be it Bruno Guimaraes, maybe he goes to City. Be it Frankie de Jong. I think the midfield is where we're going to spend the most of our money, and where we spend the most is going to be where we bring in the experienced head, the person who is the level raiser. I don't think 65 million, 45 million is not the player you're looking at as a level raiser. You're just looking at them as an improvement. But when you drop 100 million, you want a level raiser. You want somebody who's going to guarantee you that what you're talking about, what Declan Rice did for us. And if we get that guy on top of what we're looking to do, I don't want to say it.